this room at the moment, we have some Sunday school teachers. We have people who have gone through confirmation classes. We have some of you who have gone to Catholic high schools and colleges. Right, Sharon?
Yes.
So, I know you know the answer. All right. Liturgical season begins. It's called Advent because we're preparing for something very important. Sharon, since you're the...
Oh, don't do that.
Anyone. Liturgical season. What are we preparing for? Do we have one answer from anyone? You're all right, and you're all wrong, in a sense, okay? 5 minutes to put it in context, because it's really important, and it also teaches us a little lesson. Advent is the season where we prepare for the Lord coming into our lives, coming into history, yes. Okay? The first Advent liturgies don't appear for 6 centuries. Now think about that. That's twice as long, almost 3 times as long as it's been in the United States. It wasn't until somewhere in the 6th century in France where the church year is set aside, and they would put Sundays in preparation of prayer to prepare for a feast. Now, Easter is the most important feast. This was the second most important feast, something which was supposed to call our mind and make God present to us. And that feast was called... Oh, guys, you guys are too easy. No, it's not.
Saturnalia.
No, that's a Roman pagan. Believe it or not, early Christians, Christmas was kind of like Jesus was born, so what? For hundreds of years, it was not a major feast. Nobody really, it was assumed, obviously it made sense, but it wasn't a big celebration. The big celebration coming out of the East was the revelation of who Jesus is to the world. And what they did is they took 3 events and squished them into one feast, even though chronologically this makes no sense at all. They took his being visited by the Magi, his being baptized, and his changing water into wine, the first miracle at Cana. Each of them, in their own way, revealing who Jesus is to the peoples of the earth, and squished it into one feast and called it the Feast of Epiphany, manifestation. And that was the big event. Christmas gets thrown in a couple of hundred years later. It's like, oh yeah, maybe we should celebrate this also. So, putting it in context, now, since that's where we are, Advent, preparing for this particular feast, what are we preparing for? And it's not to go shopping, it's not to have the best account at Amazon.com, because you don't find me in the shopping all this time of the year. Okay? Not because I'm better than you, it's because I do all my Christmas shopping by July, and everything is wrapped with it. Because I have to live 4 weeks in advance of you guys. All right, I'm already thinking Christmas, Martin Luther King liturgy. You guys are thinking Christmas shopping. What we celebrate today is a God who has come among us, is with us and within us, and a God who will come again. And if you want to get the mindset of Advent, more than a liturgical season, but it's also a frame of mind or a frame of soul, if you use that phrase. I thought this game had fallen out of use until I actually saw it being played out over Thanksgiving vacation time, on Thanksgiving Day. Those of you old people who are my age, any of you younger people, remember hide and seek? Okay? I thought nobody played that anymore until I watched my grandson, who's 7, who used that game as a pretense to avoid my granddaughter, who's 22, her boyfriend's niece, who's 6, who wanted to play with him. So he came up with the idea of hide and seek and then hid from her for 2.5 hours, as only 7-year-old boys will do. But why does the game start? Ready or not, here I come. Remember those words. And that's the theme of today. And that's the theme of the season. Ready or not, here I come. Except this time there's no place to hide. And hopefully no reason to hide. But the question is, are you ready? That's what you've got to think about. Are you ready? We live our life each day with so many things coming at us, and especially this crazy time of the year, where there's so much pressure, that pressure from school, that pressure from work, that pressure from family, all the things that come at us that are going to take your time and suck the life out of you like a vampire. And we're supposed to live each day looking for something more important. A God who has come among us, who has lived among us, and who has told us what's really important. In the first century, people asked Jesus, when will God finally make things right? When's it going to happen? And he gives kind of a Sunday school answer. He talks about weren't ready for it. And he's not making a comment about their lives in terms of the quality of their lives, whether they're good or evil. That's not the issue he's dealing with. What he's dealing with is the fact that these people were so immersed in the ordinary stuff of their life, they were absolutely blind to what was going on in front of them and around them. And I saw this played out just 2 days ago. And I use this many of you know I use Abby very often as a teaching for our dog, because that dog has taught me so much. This dog, who is a border collie, is a herder, she's not a bloodhound. She's not supposed to be a great sniffer. But she hits the outside, and she wants to take in every single smell. And if there are deer out there, yeah, she wants to find them and herd them. Okay, so the deer go running through our yards. They go running through all your yards, right? Abby goes out, and she is going crazy. This is Thanksgiving morning. And she is sniffing at 6:30 in the morning, and she's not going about doing what she's supposed to be doing at 6:30 in the morning, which is the reason I got up to walk her, okay? And she's got her head down into the ground, and she's sniffing every blade of grass, every fallen leaf, every twig, because she knows there's a deer out there somewhere. Meanwhile, no further away than Richard is to me is the deer. Standing there, watching me and the crazy dog, okay? And Abby totally missed it. So immersed in what seemed to be so important that what was really important and really mattered was right in front of them. And that is unfortunately what happens to us so often. Don't let these 4 weeks overwhelm you with stuff which is not important. What we pray about in Advent is preparing ourselves for the Lord's coming. Yes, at Christmas, obviously, remembering something that happened in history. But also, as the early Christians remind us, what's our earliest profession of faith? Christ has died, Christ is risen, Christ will come again. Preparing us to live our lives each day as if that day were today. Are you prepared to meet the Lord if he returns today? Are you prepared to live your life and hand it over to him if you're called home today? Don't be so busy that you miss what's really important. We're people called to live in hope. And the Lord is saying very simply, in terms of what really matters, ready or not, here I come. He will come.